Okay, well, let's get started. So, I'm Kate, I'm an actor-writer, and I've worked with Brian, who I'm chatting with today, and he's a director of long-standing, and he directed a play that I wrote about Emily Davison, which I took to the House of Commons. So that's how I know Brian, and I've also done workshops with him as an actor and writer, and I really want to share with you this very exciting new venture that Brian's got. So enough about me. So, Brian, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, well, I started in theatre a long time ago in South Africa when I found that there wasn't a theatre available where my wife, who was an actress called Yvonne Bryceland, and a playwright, Athol Fugard, could actually perform. So I started a theatre called The Space. I was completely without any knowledge of how to do anything like that because I was a photographer at that stage. But it taught me an enormous amount, and it ran for 7.5 years. It was South Africa's first non-racial commercial theatre arts venue. And it produced a whole bunch of plays that are still being done all these years later. Sizwe Banzi's Dead, The Island, Statements After an Arrest under the Immorality Act. I then came to London when everything seemed to have collapsed in South Africa with my wife at the National Theatre, and I started teaching at Lambda. And I spent 8 very happy years there. However, what I soon found was that people were given what I call the agent plan. The plan was that you graduated, you got an agent, and if you didn't, you were a bit of a pariah. And then magically all kinds of things happened, except that very early on I realized that the rep system had collapsed, the grants were going, and people didn't automatically get jobs anymore, and there were an awful lot of them sitting out there waiting for what I call the lightning strike scenario, where suddenly the gods of the RSC and the National would descend and accept them. So I started getting a little bit thinking about this and thinking that really they need to learn how to do their own plays, create their own work, and we started off with that with a small group called Arts Threshold, which was an initiative I set up in Paddington. It operated a little bit before that in various pub theatres, but it was all graduates from places like Lambda, RADA, Guildhall, all over the place. We got people from everywhere, and we finally ended up with this basement theatre in Paddington called Arts Threshold, where we staged 6-7 plays a year. None of us got paid. Everything went towards maintaining the place, and out of that came all kinds of people. Probably the most famous at the moment is Rufus Norris, who's just taken over the National Theatre. Well, all those years ago, I was directing him in a play, and he was an extremely good young actor. And I had to leave one day, and I left the 2 actors alone and said, do this for yourself and show me what happened. When I came back, the other actor, a man called Andrew Maud, said, this guy is a really good director. So I said to Rufus, do you want to direct a play? And so he chose a play by a writer he knew. It was called The Lizzie Play, and it was hugely successful. It had people in it, amongst others like Julie Hesmondhalgh, who went on to Coronation Street. Julie was one of the mainstays of Arts Threshold. She was there throughout our period of time. When I left Arts Threshold, I handed it over to Rufus. He took over as artistic director from me. And I then went to Mountview. Arrived at Mountview at a time that coincided with a complete collapse of the grant system. And what had happened, one of the first tasks I was given by the principal of the school was our technical course has gone from 52 people last year to 12 people this year, who are there to support the 22 plays a year that you will program for the various courses, acting, music, theatre, there was an MA course, and they can't support them all, so we have to find a way of relieving them. And I took that way of starting something that I had been feeling very strongly about. that they needed to learn how to do their own work. So I introduced the devised component, which I have to say caused considerable trauma because they went into their third year and they had to devise their own play, write it, direct it, build the set, do the stage management, everything. They were given somebody who would help them, but the person was told, don't help them unless they're in serious trouble. And in the first year that we did that, we immediately realized that the training wasn't good enough. So we shifted it into a 2-year period. So we trained them how to do it in the second year, and then went into the third year, and suddenly they would, in the first year, they were all sitting around saying, I can't do this, I can't, rig lights, I can't this. But when they'd done it in the second year, they arrived in the third year, hauled out their drills and things, and went out and publicized and did everything. And that was operating really successfully. And then I moved away from Mount View and I went to East 15, where I was given the chance to start a new course, which was called the Contemporary Theatre Practice Course. Nobody actually knew what the hell it was supposed to be. So I had fairly free hand in setting it up anywhere I wanted to. And what I did was take on what we'd been starting at all the other places. And we turned it into a course in survival in theatre. It was a 3-year BA course for beginners. It wasn't for graduates. It was for people who wanted to learn how to make their own theatre. That has been very successful and is still running very successfully. I then reached the stage where I was retired because you get too old, and as you can see, I'm cracked up, I'm slightly lopsided, I've got twitchy eyes, I'm dying on my feet, as it were. But I went out into retirement, and then I was doing some work at a small drama school. Just in a part-time evening thing I'd taken over from somebody else. They came to me, this group, and said, would you set up a 1-year acting course full-time? And I said to them, no, I don't want to set up another acting course. There are far too many of them, and it just wouldn't work. So they said, what would you like to set up? And I spent 3 or 4 happy days in a coffee shop drawing out exactly what I'd like to do and what I think is absolutely necessary these days. And that is a course in which you get actors, directors, writers together, form them into companies, and teach them how to do their own writing work, their own acting work, their own marketing, all of the skills they need. This is not a short-term quick fix. I'm talking about companies like Knee High, like Shared Experience from way back, like the Complicité. There's a whole range of them. They all went out, and everybody looks at them now and thinks, oh, wonderful. What they ignore is the first 10 years of existence of those people as they slowly built up their own audience. And that's what we're trying to do with this, is get people to organize themselves into companies, learn how to produce their own work, and build up their own audience over time. This is a course for self-starters. It's for people that actually want to get out there and really take control of their own destiny, not just sit at home and wait for lightning to strike. It's about people who want to do it. It's about people who are positive. I have this thing where I say, when you come into a class with me, there are 4 words you're not allowed to use. They come in 2 combinations. The first combination is I can't. And not allowed to be said in my classes. And the second one is yes but. And the yes but phenomenon is a really tough one for people to avoid. And it's all about just saying, no, I can do this and I will do this. And you need that sort of grit if you're going to do it yourself.
Excellent. Yeah, I can agree with that. I've just done short courses with Brian, but this is brilliant because it's much longer. It's a year, isn't it?
It's a year.
And what's is it the Forge Initiative?
It's called the Forge Initiative, and the structure of the course is based around 3 terms, in which in the first 2 terms you have 35 hours a week of contact. You spend the mornings, 3 hours each morning, doing various skills classes in all kinds of areas, marketing, voice, Feldenkrais, all kinds of different areas. My writing course gets tucked in there somewhere. But in the afternoon you do 4 hours of projects. Now it's 4 hours minimum. It could go longer. It depends on certain factors, but it's 4 hours minimum. In which over the first 2 terms you build in about several projects. The projects start off with the storytelling thing with me, which teaches you how to create your own work, and ends up with a performance in which you you present your own more or less stand-up things. But secondly, I call it stand-up storytelling as opposed to stand-up comedy, and because I'm finding people love listening to stories, and there's a whole market out there for doing something like that. But also you create your own play, and we present small scenes from the various plays. Then they go on to doing two different terms, 2 devising modules which are around movement. The one is very movement based, presented by a man called Shane Dempsey, and he works in his own style completely, and he'll teach you an enormous amount about how to devise from scratch using movement, using music. I mean, it's amazing stuff that he did. He's done 2 shows at Edinburgh, the Bay and Master and Margarita, which were very, very successful. And then you move on to somebody, there are various teachers involved. Somebody like Jessica Beck has been doing amazing work, and she's lately been concentrating on verbatim work. So you'll be taught how to do verbatim theatre. There's a lot of verbatim theatre happening out there these days, a lot of it. And it's actually, it's not so much that it's easy to do, but it's very valuable to do. Jess also teaches something called Alba Emoting. She also teaches Feldenkrais, so there'll be classes in those kind of things. Then there's
And where can we find out more, Brian? Is there a website or
There's
Facebook?
a website at the moment. We're on Facebook. If you look at the Forge Initiative on Facebook, you'll find everything about that. And there's also another website called AP Training. www.aptraining.co.uk, and the course is on there, and it's put out as to what we do.
Mark's just saying a short course version would have been useful when he worked for Connecting Youth Culture.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually done short courses, Mark, with Brian, but this is very exciting because you can do a huge amount in a few weeks, but a year, it's incredible. Oh, and Catherine's saying verbatim theatre, she's a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Me too.
One of the other modules which I'll be doing myself is how to turn a novel into a play in 3 weeks, which is sort of based around the Joan Littlewood method that I learned from a wonderful woman called Caroline Eves, and it's startling, to say the least. And then I have a man called Jonathan Greaves, who's a wonderful Grotowski-based director, and he does amazing devising stuff, also now using a rather weird Brazilian dance system, so your days will be filled with joy. and then it finally ends up with 2 things. Number 1 is creating your own sort of socio-political musical, a small-scale, issue-based musical, because the one thing I found out at Mount View is that people love to listen to singing. And if you can get your message across in singing, Brecht uses it a lot. If you can get your message across, hooray, that will work. So we teach people how to do that, and so that they can also incorporate it into what they're doing. And the final module is a film module, teaching you how to make your own little films, how to act for camera, all of those kind of skills, using Vimeo and YouTube. We're hoping to set up a thing where the students actually produce their own little sitcom or, soap opera or, short film, and then get it out there so that people can see that. One
of the things I like about Brian is that you really embrace new technology. So here we are, because a lot of drama colleges still are very slow on the uptake, so that's really good to hear, and a practical thing as well for people who are involved, creating your own work, not just on stage, but also online, which is, a lot of stuff's happening there now.
Well, a lot of drama schools really got left behind in this because they just take no note of this kind of thing. It's really frustrating when you're working inside. I developed a whole set of new acting techniques around things called image streaming and the use of mind mapping, emotional access techniques. But people get stuck with techniques that were found irrelevant, like almost 80, 90 years ago by the people that originated them, and they're still using them. Whereas out now, I mean, everything's going to be happening online in the next 10 years. A lot of the areas that we use now will not be valid anymore. Everything will be happening the way we're doing today with Periscope, which is extraordinary, being able to put this out and publicize all your own stuff and get it together. I love the digital age.
Yes.
One of the other things we teach inside the course is when you write your own stuff is how to publish it on places like Kindle. So you can publish your own book, your own short story. I've got 2 of my ex-students are writing novels. One's up to 220,000 words, and she's on book 3 of her novel. So.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for. This is why I wanted to have a chat with Brian, because he's forward thinking, he's embracing new technology, but also drawing on the strengths of theatre, going right back to the roots of it. It's going to be. It sounds an amazing course. So if you are interested in being creative, an actor, writer, creating your own work. Definitely look it up. So can you just remind us, Brian, where we can find out more information?
Well, as I said, it's on www.aptraining.co.uk, or you go onto Facebook and you just type in Forge Initiative, and it'll take you to our page there.
One thing I just wanted to ask, could you maybe just give us a little insight into one thing that you do, maybe for actors, just so that people get an idea, maybe the image streaming or something that...
I wrote a book called Trusting the Actor, which is based on all of the methods which I evolved, not on my own, with all the young actors that I'd been training over the years. And over we came up against the same couple of problems. Number one was blocking emotion. People would suddenly go, their jaws would go tense, everything would go wrong, and they would lose their lines. There were all kinds of things, and I was able at Mount View specifically, but starting earlier at Lambda and then at Art Threshold, to start working in techniques of getting beyond that in emotional, and I call them emotional access techniques, and they work, as a lot of people can say. However, the second one comes in a rather weird thing called in the moment. Actors are told, oh, you weren't in the moment, and from the beginning of my time at Lambda, I used to watch shutters come down in the eyes of young actors, until one day one of them came to me, a guy called Joe Alessi, and said, they're always telling me I'm not in the moment, how do I get there? And I didn't know at that stage. However, now I do know. I'm one of the teachers, I'm not the only one, but I'm one of the teachers that can actually teach what that is. How do you get into the moment? Because we're all naturally in the moment all the time. And unfortunately, most of the teaching methods teach you to start thinking consciously. And in what I teach, I say I'm not a very religious person, but I can say this, that there is a devil, and the devil is called conscious thought. Any actor standing on a stage thinking, now I'm going to do this, now I'm going to do, is dead. It's not there. And the actual method of being there involves a weird thing where, I always say there's 3 responses actors have when they come off stage. They either say, that was absolutely wonderful, in which case you have about a 99% certain that it was terrible. Or they say, that was awful, everything went wrong, the props had a mind of their own, etc., etc. At which case you've got about a 60-70% chance of it being quite good. And the third one is when they come off and they say, I can't remember a blind bloody thing about that performance, in which case 100% of the time it's been wonderful. They've been totally in the moment. And that is something that you can teach. You can get people to that. And that's one of the things on my course that I'll be making sure everybody knows how to get there.
Definitely.
It's in writing as well as acting.
I mean, I can confirm that, and the way that Brian works as well, it's done in a safe way as well. It's not hiking up old memories and things. And finally, sorry, I've got a few whistles coming in from Periscope. Just lastly, Catherine asked, why is it the Forge? Why did you choose Forge in the name?
Okay, why did I choose the Forge? Well, when it started off, I just wanted to call the practical theatre course. But we had a rather lovely PR who's an ex-student of mine from a long time ago at LAMDA, who was the one that actually took the course. And he said, no, you've got to have a proper name. So we did a little bit of mind mapping. And I came up, one of the words I sent him these words. I said, well, forge is one of them, because we're trying to forge companies, we're trying to forge work, we're trying to do all that kind of thing. And then he came back with the Forge Initiative, which added taking your own initiative. And while, not my favorite, but there you go. But it says what it is. We will forge companies, we will forge work, we will initiate work. We will teach people how to take the initiative, how to take their control of their own destinies. That's why it's the Forge Initiative.
Brilliant. And you're doing auditions at the moment. We'll just wrap up now.
Yes, our next audition is the Saturday the 25th, I think.
25th of July.
Yeah.
Lovely. Great. Well, look, thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And pleasure to have a chat with you. And I really love what you do, and you've helped me personally improve as a creative person, acting and writing. So I can highly recommend Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you.